We are living in a moment that history will look back upon as the start of a new industrial revolution. In the previous industrial revolutions, we turned water and steam into mechanical power and electricity into light and mass production. Today, we are turning data into intelligence. We have reached the iPhone moment of artificial intelligence, where the technology is finally accessible, powerful, and ready to transform every aspect of our lives. But this transition isn't happening in a vacuum. It is colliding with the foundations of everything we thought we knew about personal computing. We are seeing it right now with the friction many of you are feeling. Windows 11 is struggling on several PCs, performance is starting to dip, and users are wondering why their powerful machines are suddenly underperforming. This isn't just a bug. This isn't a simple optimization issue that can be patched away with a minor update. What we are witnessing is the fundamental collision between two eras of computing. On one side, you have traditional general-purpose computing, the world of the CPU, of serial instructions, of software written line by line over 30 years. On the other side, you have the era of accelerated computing and AI. When a modern operating system like Windows 11 tries to bridge these two worlds, it hits a wall. The overhead of legacy architecture is becoming a tax on the future. Several PCs are starting to underperform because they are being asked to do 21st century work with a 20th century heart. To understand how to solve this, we have to go back to first principles. What is a computer for? A computer is a tool to amplify human capability. For 40 years, the industry relied on Moore's law to make that amplification effortless. Every couple of years, transistors got smaller, the clock speed went up, and your software magically ran faster. Those days are gone. Moore's law has ended. We are now in a world where the power required to squeeze more performance out of a traditional CPU is skyrocketing while the gains are diminishing. This is why your PC feels sluggish. The software is getting heavier, the AI requirements are becoming more intense, and the central processor is choking on the complexity. At NVIDIA, we saw this coming 30 years ago. We didn't have a crystal ball, but we had a commitment to solving the problems that no one else wanted to touch. We realized that if we wanted to continue the march of progress, we had to move from general-purpose computing to accelerated computing. We had to take the most difficult, most parallelizable tasks and move them to a specialized engine, the GPU. Today, that vision is no longer a niche for gamers or scientists. It is the requirement for everyone. If your PC is underperforming under Windows 11, it is because the balance of power inside the machine is wrong. You are trying to run a marathon while breathing through a straw. I often tell people that the work of your life should be to build things that didn't exist before. When we started NVIDIA, we were 3 guys at a Denny's. We had no experience in running a company, but we had a very clear first principle. The world needs a new way to compute. We faced incredible failures. We were 30 days from bankruptcy. We built chips that nobody wanted, but we didn't walk away. We ran. We ran toward the pain. We ran toward the hardest problems. That resilience is what allowed us to build CUDA, and it is what allowed us to build the architecture that is now powering the AI revolution. When you see your PC underperforming, I want you to look at it as a symptom of a larger shift. The traditional PC architecture is being re-instrumented. We are moving toward a world where the operating system is not just a manager of files and windows, but a manager of intelligence. This requires a different kind of resilience from the hardware. It requires a system that is designed for high-throughput, parallel workloads. The PCs that are underperforming are the ones clinging to the old serial model. They are the ones that haven't embraced the fact that every application, every background process, and every security layer in the modern world is becoming an AI workload. This is the impossible problem we are solving. How do we transition 1 billion PCs into the age of AI without leaving everyone behind? The answer is not to just keep doing what we've been doing. The answer is to rethink the entire stack, from the silicon to the system software to the applications themselves. At NVIDIA, we maintain an incredibly flat structure because we need to move at the speed of this revolution. I don't want layers of management telling me what they think the customer wants. I want to be in the room with the engineers who are seeing the performance bottlenecks in real time. I want to know why the latency is high. I want to know why the throughput isn't hitting our targets. We operate with a sense of urgency because in a revolution, if you are walking, you are already standing still. Run, don't walk. The PCs that are struggling today are a reminder that the old way of building software is dying. Traditional programming is about telling the computer exactly what to do step by step. AI is about telling the computer what you want it to achieve and letting it learn the best way to do it. Windows 11 is the first major operating system to try and integrate this at a massive scale. And the friction we are seeing is the sound of the old world grinding against the new. If you want your machine to perform, if you want your company to survive, you have to move to an accelerated model. You have to offload the heavy lifting to the GPU. You have to embrace the fact that the CPU is no longer the center of the universe. It is the coordinator, but the GPU is the engine. I've often been asked what my advice is for the next generation of leaders. I always say the same thing. I wish you ample doses of pain and suffering. I say this because I want you to have character. I want you to have the grit to stand your ground when your PC, your project, or your company is underperforming. Character isn't built when everything is running smoothly at 144 frames per second. Character is built when the system crashes, when the performance drops, and when everyone tells you that your vision is impossible. NVIDIA is built on that grit. We are a company that has been forged in the fire of near extinction. Every time we were told we were wrong, we went back to our first principles and doubled down. We are now introducing a new era where the computer is no longer just a tool for productivity, but a partner in creativity. Several PCs are starting to underperform because they are trying to be productive in an old sense, while the world has moved on to generative. When you are using AI to enhance your video calls, to summarize your documents, or to generate code, you are asking for a level of computation that traditional architectures simply weren't built for. This is why we are working so closely with our partners to ensure that the next generation of PCs, AI PCs, are built from the ground up with accelerated computing as the foundation. You cannot solve today's problems with yesterday's performance. When Windows 11 causes issues on legacy systems, it is a signal from the future. It is telling you that the requirements have changed, the baseline has moved, the work of your life is now being augmented by digital agents, by neural networks, and by massive simulations. If your hardware isn't ready for that, you aren't just losing performance, you are losing your competitive edge. You are walking while the rest of the world is running. At NVIDIA, we don't just build chips, we build the entire stack. We build the architecture, the networking, the software, and the algorithms. Why? Because to solve the underperformance of the modern PC, you have to look at the whole system. You have to eliminate every bottleneck. You have to ensure that the data flows seamlessly from the memory to the processor to the screen. This is why we are so focused on things like RTX and DLSS. We aren't just making games look better. We are using AI to create pixels that didn't exist, to predict what the next frame should look like, and to reduce the load on the hardware while increasing the quality of the output. This is the definition of doing more with less. This is accelerated computing. We have to have the humility to realize that the way we did things 10 years ago is no longer the best way. We have to be willing to kill our own beloved projects if they are standing in the way of the future. The PCs that are underperforming are often the ones that are trying to preserve too much of the past. They are burdened by legacy drivers, by inefficient code, and by a lack of vision. To move forward, you have to be willing to shed that skin. You have to be willing to start from a blank sheet of paper and ask, if I were building a computer today in the age of AI, how would I do it? The answer wouldn't be a faster CPU. The answer would be a massively parallel engine capable of trillions of operations per second, integrated into a software stack that understands the language of neural networks. That is what we are building. That is why NVIDIA is at the center of this new industrial revolution. We didn't wait for the world to ask for AI. We built the foundation, and then we ran toward the developers, the researchers, and the dreamers who wanted to use it. We provided the tools for them to solve problems that were previously thought to be impossible. When you hear about Windows 11 causing problems, don't just see it as a failure of software. See it as an invitation to upgrade your thinking. See it as the urgent call to move toward accelerated computing. The world is not going back to the old way of doing things. The demand for intelligence is only going to grow. The complexity of our software is only going to increase. The only way to keep up is to change the way we compute. This is a journey that requires resilience. It requires the willingness to face the pain and suffering of a technical transition. It's hard to change the way an entire industry thinks. It's hard to tell people that the CPU-centric world they've lived in for 40 years is over, but it is the truth. And the truth is what we find when we go back to first principles. If you want to solve the underperformance, you have to go to the root of the problem. You have to embrace the new architecture. You have to run toward the future. And the future is built on a foundation of accelerated software. When we see PCs underperforming, it's often because the software is trying to communicate with hardware that doesn't speak the same language anymore. At NVIDIA, we realized that to fix this, we had to become a full-stack company. We couldn't just throw a chip over the wall and hope Microsoft or the developers would figure it out. We had to build the drivers, the libraries, the compilers, and the AI models themselves. This is why we created the RTX platform. It wasn't just about making games look pretty with ray tracing, it was about preparing the world for the moment when the operating system itself becomes an AI. If your PC is struggling with Windows 11 today, it's because you are witnessing the transition from a world of logic-based computing to neural-based computing. We are moving from a world where we write code to a world where we train models. And that shift requires an entirely different kind of engine. I've spent 30 years at NVIDIA trying to explain that the CPU is not the unit of progress. The data center is. The entire PC is. We have to look at the PC as a tiny personal data center. When Windows 11 struggles, it's because it's trying to manage a level of complexity that traditional CPUs were never designed to handle. We have to offload the work. We have to use AI to manage the AI. This is what we call the AI PC. It's a computer that doesn't just wait for you to type, it anticipates. It's a computer that uses deep learning to optimize its own performance. If your machine is underperforming, it's likely because it's missing that neural engine that can take the weight off the traditional processor. This is the impossible problem we've been working on for decades. How do you make a computer that is both incredibly powerful and incredibly efficient? You do it through acceleration. We take the math of the neural network and we bake it into the silicon. We create tensor cores, we create RT cores, we create a fabric that allows these pieces to talk to each other at the speed of light. This is why our company structure is so flat. I don't want a VP of hardware who doesn't talk to the VP of software. I want them in the same room, looking at the same first principles and realizing that they are building the same thing, a vessel for intelligence. I tell our team all the time, the work of your life is to build things that didn't exist before. When we were at Denny's, we weren't thinking about market share. We were thinking about the architecture of reality. We were thinking about how to simulate the world in 3D. Today, we are thinking about how to simulate intelligence. The underperformance people are seeing in Windows 11 is a growing pain of the most significant transition in the history of the human race. We are leaving the era of fixed software and entering the era of liquid intelligence. Software used to be a static object that you installed. Now, software is a living thing that evolves, learns, and grows. Your hardware has to be able to keep up with that evolution. Resilience is the only way through this transition. If your PC is underperforming, don't just complain about the software. Understand the physics of what is happening. Understand that the world is asking more of your machine than it ever has before. And as a company, we are doing the same. We are constantly questioning our own architecture. We are constantly looking at our failures and asking, what did the universe just teach us? When our early chips failed, we didn't blame the market. We looked at our first principles and realized we hadn't solved the problem elegantly enough. We went back to work. We ran. We didn't walk. This is the message I want to leave you with. The problems you are seeing with modern operating systems are actually invitations. They are invitations to rethink how we work, how we play, and how we create. They are signals that the old tools are no longer sufficient for the dreams we have. We are building the tools for the next generation of dreamers. We are building the AI factories that will allow you to turn your ideas into reality at the speed of thought. If you feel the friction of the old world today, embrace it. That friction is where the heat is. That heat is where the change happens. Character is built in the moments when the technology fails and you have to find a new way forward. I wish you that struggle. I wish you that pain and suffering because it will force you to innovate. It will force you to go back to first principles. It will force you to run. We are just at the beginning. The AI revolution is not something that is happening to us. It is something we are creating together. Windows 11, the underperforming PCs, the software bugs, these are just the noise of a world being reborn. The signal is clear. Accelerated computing is the only path forward. Intelligence is the new electricity. And we are the ones building the grid. The future is not a destination. It is a direction. It is a commitment to excellence, to resilience, and to the relentless pursuit of things that have never been seen before. We are building a world where the computer is no longer a machine, but a collaborator. A world where your PC doesn't just run software, but understands your intention. This is the truth of the new industrial revolution. Thank you for being on this journey with us. I am more excited today than I was 30 years ago at Denny's. The stakes are higher, the problems are harder, and the opportunity is infinite. Before you go back to building your own piece of the future, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. It helps us continue to share this vision with the world. And I want to hear your thoughts. If you're experiencing these performance shifts, or if you've found a way to leverage AI to solve these problems, leave them in the comments below. I will be reading them and I'll be responding quickly. Your feedback is the raw data that helps us build the next generation of miracles. The logical conclusion is this: the age of general purpose computing is over, and those who cling to it will find themselves underperforming in a world that is accelerating. The future belongs to the accelerated. It belongs to the resilient. It belongs to those who are brave enough to run toward the pain and build the impossible. Run, don't walk.